Good evening. It's been a minute since I showed you the tanks. Today we're going to be talking about the new tank that I'm planning on setting up. I'm going to take you to some interesting locations and maybe we'll see some of the critters I plan on putting in that tank in the wild, and I'll tell you a little bit about them. But first I wanted to give you a quick update on what's been going on in the other tanks. So right behind me you can see the 30 gallon is booming with plant growth and plant life. It's getting warmer. We're getting more sunlight on the tank, so there's some algae in there right now. I've been planning on perhaps getting some more cleanup creatures for this tank. We'll see if that's actually necessary. There has been some interesting stuff happening in this tank, some interesting developments. The Amano shrimp that we have in here, I have one that has eggs. I'm really excited about this. The shrimp up in the cube have never bred. They've never laid any eggs. They've never gotten pregnant. So I don't know what's up with that. We've had these shrimp for a lot less time, and I am noticing eggs on some of the females. As you can see, this one here that I'm going to show you a clip of has a ton of eggs on her underside. She's really fanning these eggs. She's really trying to take care of them, make sure they get a lot of oxygen and stuff. That's why she's moving them around so much when you take a look at her. So that's pretty cool. I'm hoping that the shrimp breed and they become kind of a small subpopulation of the stocking in this tank. So that's exciting. The floating plants have absolutely exploded in this tank. We got a big duckweed infestation and some of the other floating plants are getting really big. I routinely have to remove floating plants from this tank and toss them over into Tot's tank because she will just kind of munch on them as they come. She really likes duckweed, so that's been pretty cool. If you're having a duckweed problem, as most fish keepers do at some point, maybe get a turtle. Try out a turtle. Kind of like a catch-all garbage disposal for plants that you don't really want in your tanks anymore. So what we're gonna do right now is trim this up a little bit, take care of some of the plants, do a little gardening because it is looking a little overgrown. The fish love it. The fish have no problem with it. I technically have no problem with it, but there's a lot of like these little Java fern runners that are coming off of the plants down here, and they float up to the top, and their roots kind of latch onto the floating plant roots. And the amount of floating plants in here is kind of a problem. It is suffocating the light for a lot of other plants, mainly the lilies. The lilies have not been doing well. They've been taking a beating. They were so beautiful. I really loved my lily, but as long as the floating plants are in here, they are going to struggle, it looks like. But soon, I'm also gonna be taking a lot of these cuttings, a lot of the little stuff in this tank that's growing super well, and I'm gonna be tossing it into the new tank. That's what's really awesome about having live plants in your tanks. You kind of have infinite plants if you take good care of them. If you put your plants in a good environment where they have a lot of room to grow, you are going to get tons of baby plants, and those baby plants you could just take to any of your other tanks, and boom, there you can propagate them. So that's super cool. We're gonna have a lot of cool options for the new tank. It will be planted, hello Larry. It will be planted, but not super dense because the tank will not be fully filled up. But we're gonna talk about that more in a little bit. Let me get to gardening over here and I'll be back with you in a second and we'll see how the tank looks. So typically, here's what I do. I just collect a nice cup of all the floating plants. We really filled this thing up, and I simply just take it right on over here with me. We just take it to Tot's tank. As you can see, here's kind of the remnants of what she's been eating. And I just dump all this in. And that, of course, brings me over to the 30 gallon, now that it's been trimmed a little bit. As you can see, there's that algae on the glass I was talking about, but now we've got a lot more light shining down into the tank. I trimmed the lilies that were up on the top of the water because they were very beat up. They were falling apart, they're covered in holes. So here's kind of what the surface looks like now. Duckweed, huge problem. It hides inside all of the other floating plants, the water lettuce or whatever this is. I need to figure that out. Because a minute ago, it looked like the tank was mostly this stuff with just kind of duckweed filling in the cracks. But now that I've removed a ton of that water lettuce, the duckweed is really coming out in numbers, showing you how many individual plants there are in here. In just a couple days, it's probably gonna be spreading over this gap again. So I just have to be really vigilant and stay on top of that because I want my plants to do better. The lilies, like I said, are one of my favorite plants in this tank, and this is the only leaf on there right now. Those things used to be very strong, really purple and pink. They were really pretty. And now they're hardly even green. They're not getting enough light. So hopefully this helps do the trick. Also, the Amazon sword in the back, getting pretty beat up from its lack of light. So hopefully it starts doing a little better. Oh, I gotta grab that Java fern there. The only other fish update I wanna give you is the rams here. The rams are not breeding yet. I'm not seeing any signs of breeding. I am seeing some signs of aggression. We definitely have a dominant male in here, and it has me a little bit concerned. Sometimes I look around at my other one here, hiding in the back, who I think is the female, just because of her fins. I've always thought she's the female because of her fins. She is definitely very timid and that sort of thing. But since I've never seen signs of breeding, I am a little concerned. Maybe she's just like a submissive male that's kind of been forced into this ecosystem with another male. So time will tell. I will continue to give you updates on that as they come. But with all that being said, that's enough about the current tanks. Let's get out to a creek and I'm going to tell you all about my plans for the new one. Let's get into that. Now, I'm sure most of you folks are familiar with that creature. You may know it by many names: the roly-poly, the sow bug, the pill bug. They go by tons of different names, and they change regionally too. These animals are classified as isopods. There are terrestrial versions, like the ones you just met. There are deep sea versions that are huge and very pale, and they look very alien. It would be very cool to own one as a pet one day, but I don't know exactly how I would replicate those conditions. But that leaves me with one less common, less familiar version of the isopod that I would like to show you today, and that is the freshwater variety. You can find these freshwater isopods all over creeks and streams in America. They serve as sort of the cleanup crew out here in nature. They are detritivores, which means they just eat decaying matter. And I think that they would be really cool in an aquarium. So I am going to check out the creek today. I'm gonna see if I can find some for you, maybe find some other cool stuff down here as well. And we'll talk a little bit more about my plans for keeping some of these in captivity. Flip this over and found a bunch of snails. We got isopods. And we have, I don't know if he's still living or not, but we have what kind of looks like a mole cricket species to me. Okay, he's doing all right. Under this big rock over here, I just flipped another baby species of snake. And this is a queen snake. This is a really awesome snake. They're very specialized for living in stream environments. Their entire diet consists of crayfish that have recently molted so that they're nice and soft and easy for the snake to swallow. Now she is definitely gonna get bigger than this. This is a very little baby, but it's just so fascinating that these snakes have such a specific niche that they fill in ecosystems like this. Just another reason that creeks are awesome. Creeks are the best. All right, I just disturbed the water a little bit, so it may be hard to tell, but there are some huge tadpoles in here. If I had to guess, I would definitely say that these tadpoles are bullfrog tadpoles, just because of their size. I could be wrong on that, but if they are bullfrog tadpoles, then they are locking into a long journey. Bullfrogs can be tadpoles for up to 2 years, I believe, before they become a frog. So good luck to these fellas. Hope nobody eats them up. So this animal here is a baby northern water snake. This guy definitely just hatched this year. Just found him scooting across the riverbank here. Absolutely cute little guy. He tried to give me a couple bites, but he's so small right now. His teeth are so little that I can't even feel him. Check him out. Now he's all chill. This creek is absolutely incredibly fertile. It's very diverse. There's so many different animals here. And so that is why we've come here today, to kind of look for some inspiration on how we should scape our tank based off of this ecosystem. That is why I look to areas like this. This has just become a nutrient-rich area for all sorts of animals to come and interact with this ecosystem. I am going to attempt to replicate this inside of this new tank. because one of the main inhabitants of this tank actually is going to require some land to walk on. So we're not just going to be keeping these isopods in this tank, but we're going to be keeping another species that I'm really excited about. Not a native animal, but will benefit from me trying to replicate a native ecosystem. And those are going to be these sunburst diving beetles. If you saw my zoo video, you know that they have some at the Cincinnati Zoo in their insect house. And I love them. They're my favorite thing at the Cincinnati Zoo. I love to go see the aquatic insect displays. So that is what we're going for here. We are going to create a little slice of stream in that 20-gallon long tank that I have. We're going to fill it with freshwater isopods, probably some shrimp, and eventually, when I get the land all set up right, and I get plants growing on it and stuff like that, you know, fingers crossed if I can actually achieve this, then we'll add some freshwater diving beetles. So if you know anyone who breeds them, anyone who keeps them in captivity, has some extra ones to give away, I would love to know. Keep them on hold for me, because I want some diving beetles. Hopefully this is just the first of many native inspired tanks that we make on this channel. I definitely really want to keep freshwater sunfish in the future, stream fish like darters, minnows, shiners. I love crayfish. I love all crustaceans. I'd love to keep crayfish. So these are definitely other projects we'll be thinking about in the future. But for right now, it's time for the aquatic bug tank. And we're just out here getting some inspiration now. So let's see what else we can find and what other cool parts of the creek we can take a look at. Well, would you look who it is? Now, when you go for a water snake, you got to be prepared for something, okay? This lady, she looks like she's just coming out of her den here. I don't know if she's a lady yet, but she looks like she's just coming out of her den. She's looking for some sun. This snake is going to get pretty ticked when I pick it up. It is probably going to bite me. That is because water snakes are very moody and they are probably going to draw blood. So let's go ahead and find out. Okay, just kidding. Hey, never judge a book by its cover, I guess. All right, so this right here is another water snake. This is an adult version of that little baby I introduced you to a moment ago. I couldn't even see this snake. It was blending in so well with the earth right here. Now these guys, this is a much more accurate depiction of how big these guys can get. And you can tell this is able to take down pretty much any slender-bodied fish or frog or toad or salamander that it may come across. It is very well equipped for eating aquatic or semi-aquatic animals. And this is actually one of the calmest water snakes I've handled in a while. This guy has not tried to bite me once, so I appreciate that. But this is definitely a highlight of our day so far. I'm gonna let this fella go back into its den. Yeah, there's so many like insects and stuff flying around me right now. All right. Also, he's starting to stink. I think he musked me a little bit. So I'm gonna let you go. We'll see you on your way. There he goes, right back into that den. That was awesome. These beetles require a little bit of a land area just to come out, breathe, perhaps even lay their eggs. I need to do some studying on their life cycles and that sort of thing, just to make sure that I can really provide them a good home in here. But I think it's pretty doable, and they're gonna live in peace and harmony with some really cool crustaceans. Isopods are crustaceans like crabs, lobsters, crayfish, shrimp, etc. They have just simply continued to adapt, and they've become so generalized that they can kind of exist in almost any ecosystem. And that's why you can find them all on land or underwater, unlike most crustaceans, which are typically aquatic. All right, well, this spot here, I think, marks the end of our journey today. If you've learned anything at all, hopefully it was about isopods or snakes or something like that. But if you've learned anything at all, I hope you learned how to properly carry yourself in the creek. I hope you learned some creek etiquette from me today. Wear clean shoes that are nice and waterproof. As you saw, I have my big rubber boots on. Have clean hands so that if you're touching any amphibians or other sensitive animals, you're not damaging their skin or anything like that. Every stone you flip, put it right back exactly the way you found it. We want to leave no trace. That's what we specialize in here. We want to leave ecosystems exactly the way we found them when we got here. If you are ever going to take anything home from a creek, make sure you've talked to an expert. Make sure you understand the impact that might have on the ecosystem you're taking things from, and make sure that you're actually allowed to own animals that you might be taking from the wild. A lot of reptiles and amphibians and other interesting creatures from your own backyard, they require permits to own. So if I ever end up owning an animal that does require a permit, I will show you all about that process. And if you are ever looking to capture a native animal and perhaps keep it in a tank at your house, do your research. So with that being said, I've been the Collegiate Creature Keeper. I'll see you next time with the tank setup video as we prepare for our freshwater Isopod tank. I'll see you next time. Deuces.